Oh, hi! I didn't see you there. I was just gonna carve this pumpkin. Would you like to see how to carve a pumpkin the Dave Counts way? Great! You know, in any task, the most important thing is making sure that you start out with the right tools. Hey, I use an orange Sharpie to plan my cuts. And it wears away as I work, and you won't even see it. But this might be the most valuable tool. This narrow serrated blade that I bought at Star Market for $1.50. And because it's so thin, you can cut nice curves like round eyes. And it's also pretty good at poking into the pumpkin. And so you get less jagged lines than you would say with a big old knife that's straight and wide. I may not have made that hole big enough. Okay, the next tool is this scoop with the serrated edge. I think it was $6.50 maybe on Amazon, and it's amazing. I bought all sorts of things to scoop out the pumpkin because that's my least favorite thing to do, getting all the seeds and goop out. This is awesome. It takes almost no time at all, and you just throw it into a big bowl or something. So my favorite way to carve a pumpkin is to use one of these little sort of cheese gratery things that you might use to shave down calluses on your heels or something like that. And it takes off all the skin on the pumpkin, and then you can kind of sculpt with tools that can cut into the meat of the pumpkin instead of having to cut through the skin, tougher skin of the pumpkin. And so it's a lot more like working with clay or something like that, except it is totally subtractive, right? You can't add clay back or add pumpkin back the way that you might add clay back. So you have to think about what you're taking away and what the costs of doing that are, and then improvise when you take away something that you didn't need to take away. So here we go. I'm gonna skin the pumpkin in the area that I would like to sculpt. So when I first started carving pumpkins this way, I really just used an X-Acto knife like this, and I would cut into the surface of the pumpkin and then carve the piece out and just to make little slices and stuff. And this is great, and you could do an entire pumpkin that way. But then I started to discover that there's some specific tools that were really handy. And then I started to think about the tools that my dad used to use as a clay modeler for General Motors. He sculpted cars out of clay. And so with a couple of steel ribbon tools like this for cutting and forming clay, one with a nice round quality and then another with a good corner, you can do just about any shape that you want in a pumpkin meat surface, just cutting it right out. And it occurred to me that linoleum tools for printmaking might be handy for something like that, and I've used this a few times. And I think also if you have worked with leather, those kinds of tools, awls and things like that, would be really handy for scooping shapes out of the pumpkin. And just kind of remember that it's always subtractive, and then at some point you're gonna have to improvise because it's not what you expected. And always be mindful of what the thickness of the wall is. One of the things that's really fun about a pumpkin is that it's illuminated, and so the thinner you get that wall, the brighter it gets. And in fact, if you cut all the way through the pumpkin, it's certainly very bright from the inside. But maybe part of your design involves leaving the skin on in some places in order to get absolute opacity even when the pumpkin is illuminated. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. One thing I was going to say is that I don't generally put candles into the pumpkins. I figure they get hot, it damages the inside, and for however long they last. So I use bike lights, and it's pretty easy just to turn on an LED bike light and pop it in. You can't see right now that it's illuminating very much, but I'll try and share a photo of that.